Okay.
All right. They are still serving their lunch, and I think we could start. Good afternoon. My name is Musheg Arakelyan. I'm responsible for Visa International Strategic Products in Russia. I'm glad to welcome you here, and I'm sure the topic is very relevant, particularly the benefit of all the experts from the related industries, and it's the best platform that you could find in FINOPOLIS. We will be discussing the prospects for the Internet and the way they will change the world. Could we have introductions? My name is Vladimir Alexeyev. I will try to simplify my job position. I'm an architect. I work for the IBM, and I'm involved in everything that is particularly new and sexual in technologies. Good afternoon. My name is Andrey Makarov. I'm working for MTS. I'm responsible for FinTech. I welcome everyone. My name is Katya Frolovic. I work for Sberbank, and I'm responsible for all technical innovations. I'm Boris. I'm executive manager for the FinTech Association, and I work for Kiwi. Good afternoon. My name is Andrey. I'm responsible for banking industry at Microsoft Russia. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Ershov. I work for Alfa-Bank. I'm the key architecture, and I'm Galiyev from the Akbars. My name is Kirill Gorynya from CardsMobile. I'm the developer Koshelok mobile app. Thank you. Let us kick this off. This world is getting more and more connected, and you know that by 2020, over 50 billion devices will be connected to the Internet, and half of all business processes will include the Internet of Things. And I'm quite confident that the most successful solutions for the Internet of Things will have to rely on the best client experience. We're moving from the Internet for the people to the Internet of the Things. This is the world where the things will be collecting data, analyze data, and exchange data for the client experience, the best client experience. That will cover all of our life from payments, banking services, medicine, retail, and manufacturing. I wanted to tell you about a research we conducted with GFK in 10 biggest cities in Russia. We set out to find out the awareness of the people about the Internet of Things, how they buy, how they pay for the goods and services, and how the smart devices are built into it, how people are using their smart devices. We focus on both qualitative and quantitative aspects, and one of our observations, or qualitative observations, it's not a surprise, I'm sure, for you, but it appears that smart devices are can give much more than people are aware of. Their awareness of the Internet of Things is focused mostly on the so-called smart homes, and this is something the man on the street knows best. And I'm sure for us working in the forefront of the industries, it is quite significant. We could use those smart homes to popularize, to raise awareness of the smart devices. Do you know which of the devices they know best? Hub? No, the man himself, as you're saying? You said smart aware. Yeah. Smart subway comes with a television set, but they don't use it that much. To access the Internet, to buy your things, you usually use up to 5 different devices. Those who do not use any smart devices were saying and you can see the results of our polling. They were to buy smartphones and tablets. They also wanted to buy smart TV and also smart energy supply devices. People seem to be prepared to buy smart devices. If you move on to the connected me devices, there the absolute leader is the fitness bracelets. And if you talk about the most advanced users, almost every fifth of them has those smart bracelets. When we were asking questions, nobody asked us anything about authentication, but 70% of the respondents said that they actually would prefer to have their purchases automated. For example, paying automatically for parking your car or paying utility bills. One of the questions was who you would you trust development. 54% said they would prefer to see the bank that services them to provide the solution. Banks in general was the second answer, and tech companies like Google or Yandex only came third. Just to give you the summary, we believe that the markets will be reaching the level of $7 billion, and there will be up to 8 devices connected to one man, and all those devices will be talking to each other to analyze data, to create the best user experience. We also believe we need to follow that trend and invest in the Internet of Things. Well, this is very brief communication from me, and I would like to move on to the next expert, Boris. Could you tell us, as a visionary of that market, what could we expect from the Internet of Things as we go forward? Thank you. I think I would agree with Tony Fazal, who created the iPods and who specializes in domestic appliances, and he said that the Internet of Things is not a very good name. We buy things not because they are connected. We buy some sort of user experience that these devices could help improve because they are interconnected. Many experts know and claim that the Internet of Things, if we retain that name, could help transform what we do every day, sometimes many times during the day, that is purchases. What we need to understand is that the M2M payments, this is one of the types of purchases like B2B, C2P, or P2P. The machine, computer, may replace any of the participants. It could replace a person, a company, or even I'm afraid to say that, but I need to state. I want you to look ahead. This research we've just heard about was focused on the so-called hybrid Internet of Things, where the person is still quite important. It's the focus in the purchasing process because much depends on his or her actions. But what happens when the person is squeezed out from purchasing? There would be different implications, and they are quite different depending on the aspects. For purchasers, for buyers, it is added comfort. If you go to Sheremetyevo and use the toll roads, you'll see that those who use the payment cards have to queue up, and I'm sure that the Internet of Things would create a new user experience and would create some new added advertising applications that we will be prepared to pay for, and there's some inherent interest in that. Infrastructure supplies will be among the winners too, and I'm sure Andrey will be glad too. This is a new market, but as for the sellers, the implications may also be positive. It could be that buyers will be spending more. Even we know that people who use cash don't like to pay a lot. And next come those who pay with the card. And the smoother the process, the more invisible the process, the more you're prepared to pay. You all like to pay, but you don't like to give away your money. As for the purchasing behavior, it would probably be more difficult to manage it. And I remember I was listening to one of the presentations talking how we could incite the willingness or wish of a person to pay. You can't do it to a robot, but there will be more opportunities for value-added customized services, not just advertising but other services. So this is that people are prepared to pay more. We all are prepared to pay more for your bespoke customized suit than something already made off the shelf. For the infrastructure solution suppliers like Visa, and I need to be very polite to Visa in this roundtable, they will be in a position to offer new products, and they are doing it already. For example, still relying on the existing infrastructure, for example, cloud-based tokenization. But banks, universal retail-based banks, classical merchant banks, I'm afraid they may be facing some problems because payment services will become a commodity. And the Internet of Things and M2M payments come together with distributed registers and open IPs. There will be another nightmare, which is disintermediation. Meaning basically that banks may be losing their clients, some of them may not, but it all will depend on their positioning. Talking about Russia, we have heard that in this country the Internet of Things seem to be slagging, payments not growing that fast, because we seem to be slightly away from the rest of the world, sitting on the sidelines. But I'm quite optimistic. In Vivte and Kiwi, we have been doing a lot to prepare the ground for payments involving machines, M2M payments. For example, they would need open IPs, and I'll be talking more about those open IPs tomorrow. But clearly, we need some other protocol, not just involving the Internet, but we also need information about the payments. So we're moving in that direction. The other area is the distributed registers where every machine will be transparent and every transaction will be transparent. It's added security and safety of such payments. We have started our association, a project called Master Chain, which will become a platform for this kind of solutions, and it could provide a platform for M2M payments as well. I can foresee lots of problems, technical problems, legal issues because we are not aware what kind of status we could give to MTM payments. We are not aware. We don't know how to treat the data generated with those payments. In the majority of jurisdiction, there's mute understanding of the status of data collected by, say, cameras, street cameras. I'm sure people will devise something. I just want to remind you that at one point in time, slaves were treated as talking tools, so I'm sure machines will be treated somewhere, somehow going forward. Thank you very much. I'm sure we all want to hear from other giants, and Andrey, I'm sure he could talk about the things that he sees most important in the digital economics. The world is beset by digital transformations, and all want to know what will be happening with their business, whether we want or not. The question is, what will help you to retain your business advantage in the digital economics? It's a very abstract notion, but for Microsoft, it's not just classical automation of processes done by men to reduce costs. For us, this is a way to look for new opportunities for handling digital data and preparing new digital solutions. For banks, their key capital is money. For the new digital economics, this capital moves over to data, and this is the key driver of all transformations in the banking, and this is what distinguishes banks from FinTech companies. For FinTech companies, the most important thing is data to ensure secure process. Microsoft developed a so-called intelligent cloud platform. There's a huge solution that offers an integrated approach to all the work you do with data, from collecting to storage, ensuring high security at every stage. And IoT play more and more in terms of a role, and we have some extended instrument sets. It allows different devices to talk to each other, but ensuring safety and security of everybody and all the data. But I'm sure that the most interesting stage, of course, is data analysis, where you find the most of the value added, and where you will be able to find new business models. And while collecting storage of data have been known for some time, the big data analytics is a new objective. It requires new approaches, and we see that the best prospects here is with artificial intelligence, machine-based learning. We don't have any full-fledged models of artificial intelligence, but some cognitive services and machine learning are already available as part of the intelligent clouds. I wanted to finish my statement with some visionary suggestion that artificial intelligence acts as a catalyst, and Microsoft sees its priority work with the new tools and using artificial intelligence in its portfolio. It's difficult to say where we will go, how far we will go in the integrating machines and the human life, but there's a lot of potential where you move from just relying on machines to treating machines as full-fledged partners. Thank you.
Что в рамках исследования мы выяснили, что пугает людей больше, чем потери конфиденциальности, там, какие-то небезопасные платежи. Искусственный интеллект – это страх номер один. То есть люди на вопрос об АИ начинают вспоминать все эти страшные фильмы, истории и рассказы, которые они читали, поэтому это такой будет достаточно существенный барьер для внедрения, мне кажется, в повседневную жизнь. Владимир, расскажу историю. Я вчера спрашивал Владимира, говорю: Владимир, как тебе вот прям правильно представить? Он сказал: представь меня как человека, у которого болит душа за технологии. Володь, расскажи, пожалуйста, где-то, точнее даже по-другому, есть ли синергии между блокчейном и экосистемой интернета вещей?
Where is the balance between centralization and decentralization of things? And so, well, basically, you have managed to wrap up all what I wanted to say within 3 words, and that's killing the interest to my presentation. But nevertheless, I would like to urge you to think about what we can expect in the sphere of Internet of Things in about 5-10 seconds. And so, speaking about various sectors and industrial companies, and they are all using various platforms, and major vendors who are dealing with the Internet of Things, they have their own platforms, and so certainly they do acquire certain advantages in terms of control over such things and programs. But for instance, now I have the let's say electronic device as a ring from Visa, and certainly I could use the electronic bracelets, etc. But the question is, why should I send any data to the cloud? Maybe all these devices that I own could interact between themselves, and so yes, something. So I think here blockchain could come to our assistance, since I look into various technologies and I'm dealing with technologies, so I see lots of things which underlie such technologies, and so I see lots of opportunities related to them. Nevertheless, lots of people wonder about the Internet of Things and blockchain, and so we've got to get to the root of the matter. But in 2015, for instance, that's the starting point of blockchain technologies, and so in terms of such technologies, it's already almost stone age, and so there was an ADAPT project regarding the use of blockchain technologies for the purposes of Internet connection and chain. And so what can I say about this wonderful abbreviation and the entire project? So, for instance, when we discuss smart things, well, people think that they want to have a smart refrigerator that would be ordering from the nearest store all the appropriate foodstuffs, and right now we don't know whether this platform would be decentralized or centralized. Maybe it would be distributed along the blockchain, but maybe it would be sort of a hybrid solution. But nevertheless, the blockchain would certainly very seriously affect the development of Internet of Things. And I have a conceptual slide in black and white, and you can see the interpenetration of Internet of Things and blockchain. And so without the Internet of Things, we couldn't think about any scenario of using blockchain technologies as a good scenario. And so in order to transfer actual goods and assets into digital assets. That's something that we need for Internet of Things, and also to convert some physical object into a digital form. That's something that we've got to take into account. And the use of blockchain not only in the banking sector but in the off-banking sector, and again, it's very good. And so the question is, how can I track down the movement of goods, and how can we ensure the security and safety of food? And so food safety is a project which was done by IBM and Walmart regarding the tracking of mango shipments and pork shipments from different regions in the world. And so without the Internet of Things, we could not achieve success. And so if someone wants to play a joke on me, then he would suggest that the April 12th is my favorite date of the calendar, because that's the cosmonautics day. And you may think that we've got to get to the root of matters as far as blockchain goes, and without speaking about the Internet of Things and some other technologies. But right now, I would say that we have lots of animation, cartoons, and videos, and all kinds of supportive information that give a chance to common people to connect all such technologies, innovative technologies, with space and other sectors. And it's one thing. On the other hand, 2 years ago, visiting a similar conference, when I made a presentation regarding blockchains, I received a question. Vladimir, what do you think? What would succeed blockchains? And so let's go back to 2012. And so in terms of this technology, that was almost Stone Age. And so, I frankly didn't know how to answer that question. I started speaking about quantum computers, etc. But now, today, if asked the same question, I would say that the future of blockchain is the synergy between the Internet of Things and blockchain. Well, I'm not talking about evil, or the evil and the good. When I presented this slide in black and white, it's just the interpenetration of these technologies. And so the cosmonauts, were they here, would confirm that such technologies are already in existence, and there are all kinds of videos and machine which demonstrate that machine learning, which could be launched via the quantum computers. And although I'm quite a cynical technologist, nevertheless I have my faith in the future technologies and into the synergy of such technologies. Well, Vladimir, the intrigue of your speech is absolute, and no one can dampen it. And so, let's migrate from this practical theory to the main market players. And Maxim, so theory is theory. So let's talk about the practical things which are already being done. So Musheg, because I just wanted to interrupt Vladimir because I did not understand. Well, sorry, but I did not understand what IBM is doing right now. Because we would like to know the role of IBM here. I did not understand. And so this is a very hyped topic, and now we're going to have a battle between the two speakers. And so the role of IBM. And so IBM is launching projects in the sphere of public relations. Okay, let's do that. And you can use various technologies in order to do that. If there is, the technology is the blockchain technology, you can use that. Well, I'm not about that. I try to understand. So, for instance, I've bought a car, a washing machine. And I would like to know how it's sort of washing things in my absence while I'm taking a stroll. So the Internet of Things, it's existed for many years now. For instance, when Amazon first offered and launched this button, which you have to click in order to order detergents. But right now, let's say you are a technician, you're a smart guy, you understand all those things that you've been talking about, but I'm not technologically minded. So, but I would like to understand how can IBM help me? What kind of cloud platform IBM can offer me? Well, banks also can offer me some platform. Well, speaking about washing machines now, I'm sorry to disappoint you because, well, IBM would not help you. We're not selling washing machines, but, well, the only thing that we can do, we can make it more intellectual, smarter, if you will. But you what do you want to do with this washing machine? Why do you need a smart washing machine? Well, I don't know. Let's say this washing machine, well, it should order the detergents on its own so that it would tell me that it has completed the function very well, that the machine would open the door upon finishing the cycle, etc. So, well, machines are becoming smarter, but for that purpose, you say correctly that we need blockchains, and this, well, the blockchain would allow machines to talk among themselves. And so the IBM, would let's say, supply for Samsung or for LG a cloud platform which should somehow connect such washing machines. So whether this platform would start processing data that it would be receiving in this or that way from such devices. So what would be IBM doing? I'm sorry for this question because, well, I don't understand how it could help me. What IBM is doing. So if you want your washing machine to order detergent when it runs out of it. Microphone. So he has to know, well, you've got to tell this washing machine somehow that it's out of detergent. I'm sorry, will you please start using the microphone? I would request the speaker to talk into the microphone. The same applies to a number of examples when certain, well, solutions are used. Well, that's very. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this conversation. So let's go back to Maxim, and so let's speak about the trend. Okay, let me try and tell you something about some practice from our life. One of the projects that we have launched, and Apple Pay and, well, Samsung Pay, as you know, that you use your devices, mobile devices, in order to make payments. And our practice shows that people have started to make more payments and make payments more frequently. So when I started using this Apple Pay app, I even started using different stores, and so it was just very cute to pay with your mobile phone in the Azbuka Vkusa. So because it was the first store that installed such payment terminals. And so when other stores which are closely located to my house started installing such technologies, such terminals, well, I immediately reverted to my habitual stores because, well, I was using the same technology already there. And so the same applies to people, to our clients. On the one hand, we want to make our clients happier by providing such opportunities to them. But on the other hand, we are cannibalizing ourselves because we are giving part of our profits to the players of such market players as Google, Samsung, etc. And so, well, it's a dead end at this point in time because, well, we cannot fail to provide our clients with the required services. Otherwise, we would lose the clients. They would be moving further and further away from us. But the second problem is there's the interaction between refrigerators, coffee-making machines, automotive vehicles, and washing machines, etc. Because, well, classically, we believe that there should be a bank account, and a card linked to this bank account. But on the other hand, when we are using crypted data, bank becomes an obsolete intermediary, and we are still using the bank services and bank cards by habit, out of habit, rather than out of necessity. And so right now we've got to understand that all banks should change their utility behavior in the sphere of new paradigm of technologies, including the paradigm of blockchain. And so if we provide an appropriate platform for such banks, then we would follow in the tracks of telecom companies, and we would be kicked out of the market. But telecom companies could survive because they have the technical facilities, the antennas, etc. But nevertheless, we've got to move very fast because these are the main very fast. So, any comments from Andrey about telecom?
I'm sure Mr. Gorynya would imply that Max is lagging behind time. And he could say that if you use Kashlok, then you could easily navigate in the retail shops. But I agree, Max, you were right that the future is not clear to us. It is not clear to me, clearly. But could I go to my slides right away? They're complementing to what I'm saying. We will have to skip Sberbank then. No, I can't allow for that. I'm enjoying sitting here and hearing to you soap opera men talking about washing machines. Why not talking about driving cars? It's more fit to men than to ladies, boys and girls. 12th of April is a wonderful day, Cosmonauts Day, but we all are saying the world is moving fast, banks will be disappearing, and I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a common man. You would have your washing machine, your refrigerator, your car. 20 years ago, cars were sold like things on four wheels, but the life has changed, and now expectations are slightly higher as far as cars are concerned. And we're talking here again about experience. I will be very brief. I don't want to overload you. There are two things that bother me about cars. I've got a very simple car, but I've got lots of different things of it. It's not just a self or driving cars. It's got everything is connected. It's overly connected, I think. And going back to this example of the washing machine, you could get your device connected to it and do something with this washing machine. But driverless cars is the next step for me. I think it's probably a distant future for this country where there are very harsh winters, lots of snow, but you've got lots of connected devices like navigation, music. So we need to decide whether we want to be friends with cars or we want to treat them as aliens existing in parallel. So we started experimenting. My unit is working on various scenarios, trying to see whether they work or not. There are several things you could do with cars. Take, for example, payments. Why payments? You come to the gas station. You want to fill your car, and this is what I did. So you need to get out of the car, and you leave your children, for example, inside, you need to go inside the gas station, paying our bank. It's not convenient. It's not safe. I want to have an app where I could get my gas without getting out of the car. Well, you could use a mobile app, but it's old school. You could do it using your devices in the car. Why not use a text message with your mobile? This is yesterday, and clearly. And the next step is parking. We all suffer. You drive, you park, you need to park properly. Why not leave the car near the parking lot and let it park itself? Because you have to pay for it. For example, you spend a lot of time and then you concerned that you'll be fined even before you park your car because you haven't paid for it. Well, again, the suggestion was text message. It's yesterday. Now, why not the car to pay for itself? Or the toll roads. Moscow has a number of toll roads. I don't use them that often, but I do sometimes. Without having a transpondent, you have to spend up to 30 minutes queuing up to pay. I want to go faster, and you could build this build it where in the car. We'll have the proper interface with the payments program. This is the reality. There is the need in the markets, so you go through without any queues. Wonderful. And then you could think about leasing cars, and you need to trace the cars you leased, and you need to collect data online real time. Yeah. You could analyze data pertaining to your cars. Now, where is the bank involved in that? A bank gets additional tools for managing the assets involved in the leasing projects. So you pay your fines, you pay your parking, you pay your gas, and everything you could do without leaving your car. As you move and your cars and movements, it becomes part and parcel of your activity. You want to have all the transactions done first without bothering with different variety of interfaces, getting maximum of pleasant experience, and you want to make sure that the device is getting more and more intellectual and more sophisticated. You don't need to bother, and you then get the service you need. You get it ready. You get some functions that you usually have been getting from the banks and generations that is with us. Thank you very much for your slides. Damir, when we discussed different topics and what we could offer to this audience, you mentioned micropayments. What do you think we need to focus here? What sort of vision do you see? When we had some presentation from Gardner, they mentioned a thing that's inside customers where it's not that things become bank clients, but the thing that things become clients of other institutions. But of course, banks are involved intimately, so you need to provide payment for all of that. The issue of micropayments could emerge not as just cash, but what we call colored coins, and it could emerge when you need to perform SLA between devices, and cash is involved when you need to secure or to provide that payments become smooth, where such needs are. From SLA, it's everything. It's related to industries and energy. We have some specific case studies, and we noted that some freelancers were asked to develop systems that would provide end-to-end payments. These problems can be resolved based on blockchains, but here it is not about information exchange, but a service to support transactions. We've discussed some transport issues here from different aspects, and this is what we see as well. And we could talk here about driverless cars, and then for them, micropayments could become relevant. As for the efforts we need to perform, we've already accumulated certain knowledge, and it is time that we move to specific successful case studies. Thank you, Damir. Andrey, question to you. MTS, how it is involved? We all want to know what MTS is doing here. There. We are leaders in the Internet of Things, and whatever you've heard is just theories and theory. Let's talk about practice. Now look, actually, the most important thing is how you transmit data. My picture may not be as sexy, but you can see a small red car. It sends signals, and we have MTM SIM cards installed everywhere to transmit and collect information, and we do not support payments because I think Boris said there's lack of legislation. There is no law in place. And I cannot understand anything about coins and micropayments and what you were talking about, but I'm hopeful that FISA would create some price tokens so that we could handle both larger and smaller payments for different transactions. Now, getting real, what MTS is doing. You heard about smart machines. We have our SIM cards in a number of such cars. For example, in Toyota, they are carrying our SIM card to transmit information about the status of the car. And you could say this is a connected car.
And so certainly we would like to have more functional utility. That's exactly what Sberbank wants. And so we can say that, well, some steps have been achieved. And Another thing that we have discussed that all shared cars also have MTS SIM cards installed that transmit data regarding the location of the car, the how much gasoline there's left in their tanks, and etc. We also are doing projects regarding collecting data from owners of cars, what they do and what devices they use in order to keep track of their cards. I think that's a very good story about Redmond, and we have launched a number of projects, and some domestic utilities and appliances already have pre-installed SIM cards, for instance, an electric kettle and some other devices, appliances that you use in the kitchen. And you can check whether the kettle requires some additional water. And somebody mentioned here that the refrigerators should place orders for food if they run short of food, and that's something that we've got to do, and you will be doing very shortly. The question is asked without a microphone. So right now, in the Russian market, we don't have SIM cards, and so to incorporate special cards which are different from those SIM cards that we use in our mobile phones, that would be sending data into the cloud, and then we would see that it's connected to some other aspects and facilities, and including payments. Well, that's something that we have started doing, and we certainly can proceed from that further. Well, speaking about the refrigerators, that's something that we've got to understand, that it's very important for the manufacturers of refrigerators. We should know how refrigerators work, how frequently the doors of refrigerators are opened and shut down, how much electricity it consumes on a daily basis, etc. And so I guess that with time, such technologies would reach our users and consumers. And we work jointly with Sberbank, Savings Bank, and a number of other banks along such lines. And we have our SIM cards, which are installed into ATM machines and into some other terminals, like POS terminals. And so when we speak about the world of machines, well, there's always the question when the machines will take over the world. We all remember the movie Terminator, when there came a day that when machines via Skynet seized the Earth. And so that's something that we are thinking about, that we are afraid about, because we see that more and more devices are being connected to the internet, and we see a growing number of cars moving along roads that are controlled by computers, and we know that the traffic lights are already controlled by computers, and we already see that the machines are our assistants. We know how the machines can make our lives easier, but the most important thing is to know and to remember that the machines should not raise a mutiny, that they should not rise against men. Well, but if there are not prepaid SIM cards, then the machines have not a chance of raising mutiny against humans. Thank you very much, Andrey. And now I have a question to the final speaker today, Andrey. And today, every 10th citizen of a major city, of a megapolis, is using mobile phones and mobile devices for different purposes, not only to talk over the phone. And so I'm concerned about the future position or role of smartphones in the Internet of Things, whether they would be there. Well, actually, we have representatives here of the major payment system in this country that can answer this question, whether it's really true that every 10th dweller of a major city uses smartphones to make payments. Well, I personally think that the use of smartphones and smart payments applications is just a trend, and nevertheless, this trend is going up, and it's developing very quickly. Well, bank cards dying out, and anyway, such bank cards, whatever they look like in the future, they would be trying to get inside the smartphones or the smart wallets, and so it's just a matter of time. It's a matter of adaptability of technologies and to the real world, to our life, and that's closer to the truth. And so, since we are talking about payments in some ultra-modern and classical environment that Maxim has mentioned, and so if, for instance, we could listen to all the figures and data that were quoted today 4 years previously, then we shouldn't have waited for the advent of Americans. Since we were among the first ones in Russia to believe that, well, telephones would become a fully fledged vessel of very, very sensitive scenarios for us, like payments and the work with our personal identity data. And we, for 3 years, have prepared for a new startup, which was totally new for everyone, and we were aware that people would be asking lots of questions about the technological aspects of security and safety of such devices, etc. And so I can assure you that if we talk about the common consumers, general consumers, and judging by the millions of our users, a man, user, and slash customer is not raising any questions about securities and technological security, as long as it's the Fed, as long as that's the hype, and he likes or she likes the use of this mobile. So when in 2013 we launched the contactless payments via the e-wallet, and it was 4 years ago, and very few people heard about such trends, we analyzed the number of bank cards, newly issued bank cards that banks were losing, and naturally today, well, lots of people see that Russia is an ultra innovative country because it's just at the cutting edge of innovations, and it adapts very quickly to everything which is new, which is absolutely unknown, and it's a matter of trust. Again, we trust until the first problem, and then the behavior of such customers and users changes from absolute trust to something different. And so actually, I would like to know about the survey that you have conducted. There was a quantitative and qualitative focus groups because we use the focus groups technique and the questioning technique. And so I don't think that a person, any person, common person in the street would be able to give you informative answers. So that was one of the purposes, just to know whether people know about such technologies. And for the, let's say, female audience of the survey, I think they would, let's say, the winning answer would have been that I would like to make payments with discounts. Anyway, when we run into problems related to new technologies that we do not understand objectively, is that we get the opposite response and reaction. People get panicky. They try to understand what's happened during the past 5 or 10 minutes when they were clicking the buttons and accepting some offers. And the technological aspect of some solutions is so high today that it's beyond the perception and understanding of the common customers. And I would like to emphasize that new solutions should incorporate the maximum degree of reliability and safety. I'm not talking about just technical reliability or safety, but some other things. So anyway, if refrigerators don't book food, is, well, okay, well, it's bad, but it's not a tragedy. But if, for instance, one day you see that you've lost all your money on your card has been written off, and instead you are saddled with a pile of absolutely unnecessary things, who would be responsible for that? And so here I would split payments. I would split payments into two aspects: payments as a function, and well, maybe yes, yeah, it's one of the main drivers here that we would see. And the payments as a function, there would be more widely introduced into our everyday life. And we should also remember that payments for us all are a very sacred process, a very important process as far as our self-identity goes.
And here the trend seems to be opposite, and more these stories tend to gravitate towards this warm analog user experience that has nothing in common with any automation of decision-making, of someone else making decisions for us. This is not appropriate talking about it here. From the point of view of turnover and receipts, there will be a lot of growth. As for the margin and value for the industry, I believe this is I'm not particularly keen about it, because it will lead to open up zero costs in between, and machines will be always making a decision in favor of zero transaction cost, which is not very good for the business. And I would rather make emphasis on the fact that the human is a living organism, a rational organism, and this may offer more value for both business and the man, because man seems to enjoy making decisions. Well, let's start with questions and answers involving the audience. If there's anything you would want to ask about, we need the microphone, please. Yaroslav Medex from Sbertech. I've got a polemic statement for 2 minutes. Thank you, Katerina, for your very realistic, very understandable case studies, which would be implemented right away. Other speakers didn't offer any realistic case studies. I am involved in developing smart homes. It's my hobby. I can say that Redmond with their teapots, with SIM cards have no future. I myself am an owner of a smart home, and I'm saying that I don't need the Internet of the things for my smart home because my home is connected to the Internet. So the Internet of Things for the users will be nice to have when you have convenient interface like you would have one in the smart home, but you don't need any Internet of Things if you have a convenient interface. Well, I'm open for any counter arguments if you have any, and I'm sure that all of you can sell something to the audience, but you missed this opportunity. You didn't offer any specific realistic examples, case studies of the Internet of Things. And IBM, I'm sorry, had the worst story so far. My first argument, I wasn't here to sell anything. And I didn't want to mention the name of my company at all intentionally. We are not involved in B2C payments. We always have been present on the B2B segments. It wasn't our purpose here. We need another panel session to sell. Again, install our Koshelok app, get yourself registered. I don't think I need to comment here. I know that Sbertech hates Sberbank as this special relationship, and I won't agree that there's no need for the Internet of Things for a specific thing, because the Internet or Wi-Fi that you've got in your home may have some issues. The router breaks down. And here, for example, the Wi-Fi that we have here tends to work only intermittently, and if it disappears, you're done. You've lost. And I agree, Katsia's was the best presentation. We all agree with that. But we were not here to sell anything. Our key message was that we all agree that we want to simplify payments, to make payments easier for whatever we pay for in an old traditional way. And Katya said, actually, in her gas station case study was wonderful, and there are a number of gas stations already equipped in a way. But actually, for gas stations, this is not a very good story because they earn more in terms of other products they sell in this station, not the gas they sell. So when you look at it from different aspects, it tends to be very complex. And this contactless product, for example, with Musheg, we were trying to persuade merchants to accept contactless cards, and we had to do a lot and to pressurize them before they believed us. And this is the crux of the matter. When you have the necessary critical mass, then everyone enjoys it. I didn't tell you about the number of SIM cards MTS installed for M2M. We have over 5 million such SIM cards. We have over 80 million clients total. 5 million is a good share, and it grows at least 25% a year. And when the legislation catches up, and Boris was right in mentioning that, this growth will accelerate, and it will be accelerating with new laws on online digitalization and so on and so forth. So the future is very near, and we wanted to tell you that the future is with us here. It's not that it is somewhere beyond the mountains, it's here. We need to offer some payment functionalities. We don't have any more time. I just want to tell you that the Internet of Things doesn't mean that all things are connected. It means that things talk to each other. So what you say is your hobby is exactly the Internet of Things, where all the things you have in your smart home are talking to each other. 2 or 3 very quick questions you want to address to our experts, and we don't have any more time for anything else. No questions? 1 question. You liked the Sberbank presentation? Of course I did. I'm from Sberbank, and I'm very close to that topic. My question to all of you, you coming from what you told us, you tend to focus on commodity. Commodity cannot bring you a lot in this new market. Apart from the final users, who will benefit if we take purely payments? Andrey, for example, your market is Boris mentioned in the beginning, based on the panel discussion, who do you think will be the winner? Who will come the winner? Who will be earning most? Are we talking about payments? Nobody will be earning a lot of profit on payments. The profits will come from data. I think we all are clear about that, and it's clear to Sberbank because Sberbank is focusing on building a huge system around it, and it's all based on data. But before it becomes good, it will become worse, and we know how to contextualize payment. You come to you know how to pick the easier buy. We need to contextualize our payments differently using the data that we get, including data coming from the Internet of the Things. And it has a huge potential. And the one who capitalizes that fast will be the winner. And who can do that? Those who have as much data as possible. And you need to start searching for data, and I'm sure that at some point in time the state will think that this data belongs to it. So the winner will be the smartest guy on the street. A very good conclusion. You could talk to the speakers outside the room. Thank you very much. And I urge you all to join us in the Visa Lounge, and you could test some of the Internet of Things and smart homes there.